welcome to the semifinal match here between Kent Ketter and Alex Zurawski here at the Louisville Open. Alex Zurawski was the slayer of the last member of the Gatewatch in the top 8. In 3 games, defeated Jeff Hoagland, no Collected Company, no SCGKY, and now the Eldrazi run rampant over the plane. Will it be Kent Ketter with his blue-white Eldrazi or Alex Zurawski with the green-red ones to make it to the finals?
Yep, and we see blue-white Eldrazi generally favored in any kind of Eldrazi mirror, and Kent Ketter has exactly the kind of start that you want on the play here.
Yeah, we talked about how Kent could have a really fast draw. He goes a turn 1 Eldrazi Mimic into a turn 2 Endless one. It is the full 4 mana on turn 2. He hits Zurawski down to 16, and Zurawski already very far behind here.
Yeah, so I believe that is a Mind Stone on Alex's side, which puts him well behind the beatdowns for Kent Ketter here.
He's down to 8. Kent may just have the very fast turn 4 kill. Alex down to 10. He didn't take 8 there. You see Kent up to 5 mana. Ancient Stirring from Zurawski. He's going to try to find some way out of this.
So it looks like he's probably off of an Eldrazi land. If he finds one of those and can cast a Thought-Knot Seer, that would be a big swing.
Sure.
But he needs some action here because he is very far behind.
Yeah, he has that Mind Stone and Ghost Quarters. That's 2 mana. If he finds a 2 mana land, a Temple or Eye of Ugin, you're right, he can play a Thought-Knot Seer this turn.
Kent had no action on 3 with 5 mana available. High chance of a Drowner of Hope on the way.
And it's going to be exactly that. Eye of Ugin into Thought-Knot Seer from Kent. Will Dismember or Path to Exile happen before Alex gets a chance to see the hand? We'll see. Answer is no. Looks like 2 Path to Exiles and 2 lands in Kent's hand.
So Kent's hand actually looks to be much worse than I thought it was. I thought he might just have some slower threats, but it's just lands and removal spells.
I mean, such is the way of the deck. On the play with Eldrazi Mimic, Endless one, and 4 mana, I mean, you're not throwing it back, but you are at the mercy of the top of your deck.
Right. Notably, the Path to Exile, which it looks like is definitely happening here, is going to give him an extra draw plus a draw step if he finds anything. A 5-power creature is actually just lethal on this turn with the Mimic plus the Endless one.
Yep, so Thought-Knot Seer will be exiled. Alex will get a land. Alex is going to go to 3 necessarily,
there it is.
And he draws Reality Smasher. Game 1, Kent Ketter, making it look easy. You see there, ringing him up.
Little celebration.
Not wasting any time. You gotta love Kent. He plays straight from the heart when he plays Magic.
Oh yeah, heart definitely on his sleeve on that one. Yeah, rightfully so. He just won the first matchup in the semifinals of a tournament. That gotta feel good.
2 minutes, 30 seconds in. More shuffling than even play there. Kent just comes screaming out of the gates with that aggressive draw. So, all right, game 1 in the books for Ketter. We'll look at the sideboard strategy. If you're Alex, goodness, you hope that doesn't happen again. He does have copies of Lightning Bolt, Oblivion Stone. Can he become the control in this matchup?
Yeah, so looks like he has the Lightning Bolts to slow Kent down. It doesn't really look like he has any other meaningful action. I guess you have, I don't know, what does Crucible of Worlds do? Kent's not going to destroy your lands, so I don't think I like that one. If he has like some Ghost Quarters that he can recur, there is 1 Ghost Quarter in the main deck. That's probably not the plan.
Now, is it possible that Alex can just become even more of a control deck here? With Lightning Bolts, Oblivion Stone, Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, he can just build up mana and go over the top of the blue-white deck?
Well, what we saw in that deck, Alex's big concern is not getting run over. So the Lightning Bolts definitely come in. I don't know if we necessarily want to move towards a 10 mana spell. We already have the 7 mana for the World Breakers. I think that's kind of where we want to be. Mostly we just want to get those Lightning Bolts into the deck.
All right, over on Kent Ketter's side, we have Disenchant, Gutshot, Rest in Peace. Well, the things we've seen them use in these mirror matches are the Vesuva and the 2 Worships. Now, Vesuva's still good, but Worship is an interesting proposition against the green-red Eldrazi deck.
Yeah, so the reason to play the green-red Eldrazi deck is so that you have Worldbreaker against other decks playing Worship and Ensnaring Bridge. So if I am playing the blue-red Eldrazi deck, I don't want to bring in Worship. I don't want to just play that and have it eaten by Worldbreaker. So I think that we're going to see the Vesuva come in for sure. Don't need Gutshot because Zurawski doesn't have any Eldrazi Mimics. Mostly just a matter of getting that Vesuva into the deck.
So Kent Ketter, part of Team Lotus, currently competing right now for one of those spots in the Players' Championship. 3 of them given away at the end of Season 1. Now we can look at how things have stacked up with our top 8. Jeff Hoagland, with his top 8 appearance today, will just extend on his lead and is looking to be all but locked for that first spot. You see the other big story of the day, Andrew Tenjum, a great weekend. He lost in top 8, will pick up a lot of points. Joe Lissette making some noise. He day 2'd today. He also is picking up points for being in the top 8 of the Legacy Classic, so he'll be moving up in the standings. It looks like going into Philadelphia next week, the cutoff will be there. Joe will move up into 3rd, and those 3 will have a lock on the spot. But we'll see whether or not Caleb Shear and Brian Brunduin can respond. Jerry Thompson cashing the event as well today, so he might be making some noise. And if Kent Ketter can win the tournament, we'll have to look at what he's doing. Between top 16ing last weekend and if he top 4s this week, Kent's going to be in the conversation.
Absolutely. Huge weekend for Kent. Also with Philadelphia being Legacy next weekend, that's going to be a really good format. Sheer makes it out there. Legacy is, of course, his format of choice. So the players, the very good Legacy players, next weekend could be a big weekend for them.
Legacy Classic top 8, please meet me at table 1.
Zurawski back on the play. Now, one thing we've mentioned is Alex Zurawski cannot return the favor, so to speak, to Kent. He does not have Eldrazi Mimics. His deck has a lot of the same cards. Of course, that's Smashers, Thought Not Seers, all the same lands. It does not do what Kent did there.
Right, exactly. He has a lot of the same shell as Kent, but the Mimic is just the missing piece of the puzzle. He has to have those lightning bolts out of the sideboard to keep pace in the early game. Notably, it also kills Eldrazi Displacer, which does matter, but he needs to slow Kent down. That has to be his objective in the early game.
Alex going to 6. One thing about these Eldrazi decks, they mulligan quite well, but they have to mulligan very judiciously. Hands that don't have a 2-mana land, largely unkeepable.
Yep, and that is actually where we see the Vesuva coming in for Ketter. It gives them some capacity to just keep a hand without a 2-mana land and just play off of your opponents. Pretty cool technology. Something that I've been excited to see all weekend, but we haven't just seen it happen on turn 1. In particular, when players are mulliganing, that impact matters a lot more. If you can just keep your 6 because of Vesuva.
Both players look like they're going to be on 6s here. For Zurawski, he'll be keeping. Kent as well, so some scries. So it'll be a 6-on-6. You know it's Zurawski, that top card's Eye of Ugin, so the hand passes test number 1, which is, do you get to play?
Right. Won't have a Mimic start, can't have a Mimic start.
Kent has kept a hand without a 2-mana land in it. He'll start on Ottokar Wastes.
Would have been a great window for Vesuva. I'm pretty disappointed that we don't get to see that.
Here's Matter Reshaper for Alex. He'll have the first play. That's his only 3-drop here, so whereas Kent always has Sky Spawners, Mimics, this is Alex's aggressive start. Kent does add an Eldrazi Mimic to the board, however. Matter Reshaper will swing from Alex. No trade. Kent's down to 17. And for Alex, it's a second Matter Reshaper. But no 3rd land. Here's an opportunity for Ketter to catch up on mana.
Yeah, started out ahead, which is unusual for the deck that doesn't have the Mimics, but without some more lands here, might not be able to maintain that lead.
Yeah, and I imagine that Ketter is not going to want to trade with these Matter Shapers. He doesn't want to give Zurawski additional looks at land. Zurawski's much more of a ramp deck as opposed to just a beatdown deck, so he really does need the lands. Kent can play land light.
Right. There is a lot of pressure on Ketter to get to 4 and 5 mana and start making those plays because the Matter Shapers match up pretty favorable against his board as things stand.
He plays Eldrazi Sky Spawner, gets a Scion, passes. Kent had to go down to 14 for that. He took 3 off his lands. Some updates from around the room. Other matchup, Austin Holcomb with Affinity takes game 1 from Blue Red Eldrazi, so Jacob Dyer down a game. But you mentioned game 2s and 3s. That's when Dyer gets his Hercules Recalls. That's going to be tougher.
Right. Swings things pretty dramatically.
A swing here. Kent does trade the Sky Spawner with Matter Reshaper. And it looks like Zurawski is going to Ghost Quarter his own land.
Yeah, he picked up a second copy of Eye of Ugin here,
Oh, okay.
so he's using the Ghost Quarter so he's able to play it, and then the Ghost Quarter also unlocks green mana for him.
And he will Ancient Stirrings here. One way, it's a costly way to get green, but one that may work for Alex. Plays Grove of the Burn Willows, passes the turn. You ready? He does have another Eye of Ugin in hand.
Yeah, telegraphed that fact pretty heavily, though playing the Grove, so he has access to this Dismember here.
Eldrazi Displacer from Kent Ketter. Now, if Alex wants to dismember here, interestingly enough, he can dismember the Eldrazi Mimic and or just the Displacer, and the Mimic won't get to become a 3/3.
Right.
Because Dismember kills with -5/-5, Kent can't copy now. If he copied his Eldrazi Mimic, would be 0/0, would be dead.
Right.
So 3 damage across for Alex. He also took 4 from himself. He should be down to 13. And that's the only Matter Shaper puts Kent down to 8. For Alex, that Ghost Quarter play really paying dividends. He plays the Eye of Ugin, plays his 3rd Matter Reshaper of the game and passes. For Kent, here's Reality Smasher. It'll pair with Eldrazi Mimic, and he will smash in for 10. Alex chump blocks with Matter Reshaper. It will reshape into Ulamog. That's no help.
We're a bit off of being able to cast that one. That was one of the reasons that I wasn't in love with this card out of the sideboard.
Both players at 8. Here's Thought-Knot Seer from Zurawski. He sees Dismember, Reality Smasher, Eldrazi Displacer.
That is a very good hand.
Well, it's interesting. I think he can't leave the Dismember because he's probably just dead if he does.
Right.
Now, if Kent draws a land for the Eldrazi Displacer, he doesn't have one yet, then Alex is probably dead.
Very precarious situation. You can't leave the Smasher.
Well, no, I mean, can you leave the Dismember? You leave the Displacer, that's happening, but can you leave the... It's possible he has to take Dismember. If he takes Dismember, he's just hoping that Kent does not draw land for Smasher.
Right.
If he takes Smasher, he's hoping that, well, Kent would have to pay 4 life to Dismember something. And then Alex would go to 1.
Unfortunately, the
0.
Matter Reshaper could only put Kent down to 5, so the Dismember would still be live at the end of this turn. So I think you just have to make that pick.
Takes the Dismember. Can Kent hit the land? If he does, it'll send him to the finals.
That wasn't a land.
And it is not. It is a Thought-Knot Seer. That's good.
Yes.
But not the game. We see 2 World Breakers, an Oblivion Sower, and an Ulamog, all available for Thought-Knot Seer to take.
Sees exactly what he probably assumed was there.
Lots of big stuff.
Right.
4 mana in play for Alex, and he'll take Alex's only even possible play. Here's Oblivion Sower. So if Alex wants to get to World Breaker this turn, he's going to have to block with the Matter Reshaper.
Yeah, he has to find 2 mana sources. I believe that Black Lotus is still not legal in Modern.
He'll have to find a land off this Reshaper. He'll have to draw and then draw a land, and one of them's going to have to be a Temple.
Right. Has to be Temple plus mana source.
This is looking real rough for Alex. I don't know.
Can't be another Eye of Ugin as well.
So it looks like Matter Reshaper will go in front of the 4/4 Eldrazi Mimic. Reshaper will hit the graveyard. Zurawski down to 3. Thought-Knot Seers the draw for Zurawski. That
It's castable, but it doesn't look like it's good enough.
draws Grove of the Burn Willows. Is this enough? I don't think so. Here's Thought-Knot Seer. Takes the Reality Smasher out of Kent's hand. He passes, and that is lethal. He has a swing for 2, and no matter what, the Reality Smasher tramples over for the 3rd. And in 2 games, it is Kent Ketter heading on to the finals with Blue-White Eldrazi.
Yep, any creature with more than 2 power for Ketter there makes his Eldrazi Mimic lethal, so it was academic from that point.
Yeah, and a great line from Alex. He got land stuck on lands. He made a very aggressive play of Ghost Quartering his own Eye of Ugin to try to restock on lands, restart, find green mana, go again, and he ended up a turn short.
You could call that play aggressive, but it was actually not only his only line, but actually his best line.